Hello and welcome back. My name is Paget Kagy. I'm a frequency coach, which means I help you remove your deepest energetic blocks so that you can transform your life, get into that energetic alignment, and start living the life that you are actually meant to live, not the life that you feel like you've just kind of fell into. So today I wanted to talk about a really, really important concept, and that is about boundaries. And yes, I do mean about boundaries with other people, whether friends, family, spouses, even children, but I mean boundaries at a much broader level as well. And also why it is so incredibly important. It's about a deeper understanding of what the boundaries are actually doing and creating in your reality, how they're actually affecting your reality, okay? Because your boundaries signify to yourself what you are and are not willing to tolerate at a deeper energetic level within your reality. So yes, of course, this applies to people, right? Having boundaries with people, not letting them push into your space, because then what you're really saying is, okay, I'll diminish myself, I'll diminish my presence so that you can have more of your presence, right? And so if you're doing that, obviously at a deeper energetic level, what you're saying is that you are not worthy. Okay, that is what you're saying. And so that's why having boundaries in that kind of situation would be very important, because you want to be able to signal to yourself, no, I deserve to take up space. I am worthy. I am worthy of being seen. I am worthy of being heard. And then we have to talk about boundaries with other things too. Boundaries with, let's say, distractions in your life, boundaries with even thought processes in your life, things that are not serving you, certain kinds of let's say, mental tangents that you tend to indulge that are completely not helpful, right? Or distractions, even let's say boundaries with your technology, boundaries with your phone, boundaries with your work, boundaries everywhere, okay? It's not even just with people. So I would ask yourself, even right now, where are your boundaries with different things in your life? Where are your boundaries with work? Where are your boundaries with your spouse? Where are your boundaries with your kids? Where are your boundaries with technology? Where are your boundaries with your phone? Because it's really going to reveal to you what, again, you are and are not willing to tolerate in your reality. And here's the thing, guys, whenever you make room for something in your reality at a deeper energetic level, there will always exist that item that you will need to make room for. So actually the way to get things out of your life really is to create, let's say, a boundary or a boundary of intolerance around that thing. And then that thing will no longer exist in your reality. It's not just about solving that one thing. Does that make sense? Because most people, they go, oh, it's this thing that I really need to solve for and I really need to fix. And once I fix that thing, then that's going to go away, right? But what ends up happening is if you still, let's say, haven't created a boundary around whatever it is, okay, a certain treatment from other people in your work or terms in your job or whatever it is, right? It's not about solving that one issue, because if you do not actually create that energetic boundary around that thing, guess what? You will always find an issue or a line item to actually fill in that space that you have created energetically in your field. So I hope that makes some sense. And this is why boundaries are so important and why it really is one of the most important things when it comes to, let's say, creating your reality. Okay. Because as long as you're making space for something to happen or some pattern to run or whatever it is, that pattern will run or that thing will happen, or somehow that space that you are making in your life will be filled. Okay. Does that make any sense? This is why boundaries are so important. And of course, the biggest way in which they show up in our lives is with people. How do people cross your boundaries? I want you to notice that. Or where do you even cross your own boundaries, right? With people. So let's say you get a text message from someone and you really don't want to get it. You really don't want to answer it. You don't feel like it, right? It's going to totally divert your whole day, but you can't help but do it because you're like, no, because then they're going to worry that I'm not thinking of them, or they're going to get, butt hurt or whatever it is. Right. So you're literally making space for them to, let's say, be in your energetic field to an extent that is probably not serving you. So really, really, really Look at your boundaries with everything in your life. It is going to tell you a lot about the reality that you are creating for yourself. And the hard thing about boundaries, you might think, oh, well, that's so easy. But the hard thing about boundaries, right, is it really brings up a lot of your own distortions or your patterns. You're always going to get to this point where it's going to feel like a leap of faith, right? A leap of faith, like not responding to someone for a day, okay, is going to feel like a leap of faith. Like, are they going to be so butthurt that they will not like me anymore? Okay. Can I really reestablish a different kind of dynamic with this individual? Is that even possible? Right? Or if you have to be upfront with someone and say, hey, look, I'm not really willing to accept this, but maybe we can find a different way to deal with things with each other or whatever it is, then you have to take that leap of faith that either that person is going to say, oh, I'm sorry, I don't think that this relationship serves me, or they're going to actually start to respect your boundaries. You're going to get to these points in your life that is going to feel very, very uncomfortable, especially when it comes to, let's say, parents. A lot of the times we get tested the strongest when it comes to our boundaries with our parents. Why? Because of all the guilt that runs in our field, of all the obligation, of all the burden patterns, of all of those things that make us feel really indebted, like we are indebted to them. Now, I'm not saying you can't be thankful to your parents and thankful to the people who've done good in your life, but you do not owe them your life, right? And this is one thing that people really, really get caught up on. So even if they think they're self-aware around this, right? They're never willing to take the actual step that they need to take to the extent they need to take it in order to up level, in order to upgrade their energy state. And I have seen it literally with people where one of the biggest transformations they have made have come from being able to create better boundaries with their parents. And yet it was the hardest thing for them to do. But when they did that, like their entire lives started to change, because again, it's about energy, right? It's about what you are and are not willing to tolerate. When you create that boundary with one aspect of your life, or let's say you start to erase a certain energy pattern in one aspect of your life, it literally shifts your energy for all aspects of your life. That's why nothing is just like, it's not really a big deal, right? When it comes to the game of energy, everything actually is a pretty big deal. So even when you have a small win, that actually is signaling a pretty big energetic upgrade. So a lot of the times in QSA, one of the first things that people notice is that other people start to treat them differently without them acting any different. But it's because their energy has fundamentally at a deep level shifted, right? And they'll be like, oh, that seems like, that seems like a minor thing, but actually it is a huge thing that is going to perpetuate forward, because if people are interacting with your energy differently, that also applies to what? It applies to opportunities. It applies to even like abundance, right? Being able to command more abundance. It applies to being able to connect with people at a deeper level, like get more respect in relationships or in romantic relationships. It applies to your confidence, your ability to show up in a room and actually feel comfortable in your own skin and feel confident in showing up in your authentic essence without having to put up a mask, right? So all of these little things, guys, they really add up to big energy shifts. And in the long run, they add up to really big shifts in your physical reality. Now, one thing I will say about boundaries is you have to make the distinction between creating boundaries and then putting up walls, okay? You do not want to, not that you don't want to put up walls. Walls can sometimes be useful if you are not able to create effective boundaries. Walls can be tools, right? Walls can be tools. But then when you get beyond a certain level, you don't need walls anymore, right? And then when you get beyond an even certain level, you actually don't even need to create boundaries. Boundaries are naturally created around you because of the energy that you are running, or the energy, let's say, that you are not running, where people know, right, that they cannot cross that boundary with you. They just feel it. They just know it, so they won't do it. But something that I do see is people are like, oh yeah, I'm really good with boundaries. I've cut out so many of my friends. I've cut out so many people, yada, yada, yada. And then they ask me, why am I having trouble forming romantic, intimate relationships? Because when I read them on a deeper level, what they've done is they haven't just created boundaries, right? Like authentic boundaries. What they did is a little bit of a bypass where they just put up a wall, where they just said, no, I'm not, just leave my life, right? because they were not willing to actually like get into the weeds of having that communication with that person saying, hey, this is genuinely how I feel about this. Would you mind respecting that? Like, what do you want to do? Right? They just were not willing to necessarily have those kind of difficult conversations. So instead, what they did as a defensive measure was just put up a wall. Okay. But then walls become issues because then you're not able to, let's say, express your authentic self, right? Then you have issues with when it comes to being able to be vulnerable or being able to be authentic, being able to connect with people at a deeper level because you have all of these walls that you've built up. And so you start to even feel, let's say, emotionally numb. Right? It's like hard for you to connect with emotion. So if you're one of those people who are, it's like even hard for you to connect with the joy and the excitement and the adventure of life, I would ask yourself, am I putting up walls in my life? What walls am I putting up in my life that is preventing me from actually even being able to, let's say, experience life to its fullest? Because what you really want to be doing is putting up deep, energetic boundaries. And that comes from a much different place. So the place that you want to really come from when you're setting up boundaries, let's say, it actually becomes easier as you, let's say, remove some of the patterns that are keeping you tied down, some of the people-pleasing, low self-worth patterns, things like that. When you actually remove some of those patterns, it actually becomes a lot easier for you to put up boundaries because you are developing a stronger connection with who you truly are, or what I call your powerful essence. In other words, you're also developing a deeper connection with your spirit or your higher self. And when this happens, you feel at the core of your being a power and a strength and a centeredness come through. And it is not something that you figure out with your head. It is not something that you logic your way toward. And it is not something that you fake or mindset your way toward. It is a deep knowing within you that comes through that actually starts to motivate you to actually create those boundaries. Because why? Because you, at a deeper level, now you have a higher level of self-respect. Now you have a higher level of self-worth. Your confidence starts to come in. And when those things start to come in, you naturally want to create better boundaries because why? Because you deserve better, right? You deserve better treatment. You deserve to be honored. You deserve to be respected. So when people, let's say, violate that knowing within you of your deeper, let's say, powerful presence is what I call it, then you're like, no, I don't want to accept that, right? This is, again, about not tolerating certain things in your reality. And then you actually naturally just want to create more boundaries and say, hey, look, I'm not okay with that. Please don't do that. That doesn't really make me feel safe, or whatever it is. You're going to be able to create those boundaries. But it first comes from a deeper energetic place, which can sometimes be motivated out of anger. And anger, by the way, one of the most powerful tools to propel you out of, let's say, your current circumstances or your current reality. One of the most powerful tools. People don't really talk about that. There is a reason why we have anger. And honestly, it is like every single time, let's say I have upgraded in a certain aspect of my life, I have used anger to propel me out of it, right? And of course, you get to a certain level where you don't need to use anger anymore. But for those of you, especially who have played small in your life, anger is one of the most powerful tools that you can use to like push against the things that actually you don't want anymore. And if that is the case, you might have to go through stages, right? If you're coming from like really extreme people pleasing and things like that, you might have to go through stages of like putting up walls first, right? So that you can create space for yourself, so that you can grow and that you can come into more of your confidence, come into your more of your connection with your deep, powerful self. And then, right, once you graduate from putting up walls, then it's learning how to create energetic boundaries that then translate to physical boundaries. And then when you get beyond that stage, okay, there's a stage where you don't even have to create really those boundaries anymore. People just naturally tend to honor your invisible boundaries, shall you say. Even strangers start to honor you more. They just like, respect your space more. Now, most people though are at the level where they have to consciously create boundaries. And there are certain areas of your life where you're always going to probably have to create some bit of boundaries, like on a physical level, right? Like with work and so on and so forth. If you're dealing with a lot of different people, But then you do get to this point where it's like an unsaid thing. Like when someone meets you, they just know they can't cross a line with you anymore. And that's when you know you've really graduated to the next level. So in a nutshell, that is why boundaries are so incredibly critical to your self-growth journey or your spiritual even awakening, right? Because to me, when they say spiritual awakening and self-growth, to me, they're kind of similar because it's really what they're all doing is getting you back in connection with who you truly are, which is a powerful, limitless being, or getting you back in connection with your higher self, which knows that it's a powerful, limitless being. So anyway, guys, I hope that this episode was helpful for you. If you want to see more content like this, please like and leave a comment below. If you would like to work with me in my 3-month container where I get to know you and I work with you to release your deepest energetic blocks, you can also find that in the link in the description. Until next time, take care of yourselves and I will see you later.